Ce sera pas long, petit problème technique. Nadia, j'ai pas la présentation. Help! SOS. Mayday. J'ai pas la présentation. OK, donc désolé, petit problème technique. Donc, la prochaine présentatrice, her name is Alitzel López Sánchez. So, she is a PhD student in computer science with a research pathway in bioinformatics at the Department of Computer Science of the University of Sherbrooke under the supervision of Professor Manuel Lafont. Her research interests involve understanding the theoretical and algorithmic challenges of evolutionary relationships and their impact on gene functionality. She is also a founding member of the Mexican Bioinformatic Network, which is a nonprofit organization whose aim is to make bioinformatics accessible for Latin American countries. Additionally, she is interested in science popularization, especially in the form of infographics. So please give a warm welcome to Alitzel López Sánchez.
Thank you. Thanks for the nice introduction, but I think I will extend a little bit. So today I'm going to talk about science graphics. Well, who am I? I am Mexican as a cactus, as I say in there. So I am my second year of the PhD. I am a bioinformatician, but I'm more in the mathematician part. So my background is actually in mathematics, and I had to learn all the biology by myself, which means a lot of vulgarization or popularization. I had to teach it to myself. I am a self-learner, so I like to learn lots of stuff by myself. But I have not always been this way. So drawing is my hobby. When I was 12 years old, you know, like this 12 years step in STEM that we saw in Laura's presentation, at that age, what I thought is, I want to become an artist. I was actually really, really bad at math. So I had to take extracurricular courses because my notes were really bad. And I really wanted to become an artist. I really wanted to drop everything and just become an artist. But, you know, that happens when you have like a lot of interests. So you want to be an artist, and then you want to be an astronaut, and then you want to be... I passed to everything. The only thing that I knew, coming from a family of lawyers, is that I didn't want to study law. And or to my family, they are all farmers, so I know that law and agriculture just don't go well with me. So I wanted to be an artist. in this presentation, although now I have a lot of more scientific knowledge, I try at every time to, to canalize the artist in me. So I hope that by the end of this presentation, I am going to get out the artist in each and every one of you, because I believe that there is some artistic part in each and one of us. So first, I'd like to talk about the importance of science graphics. So in here, I want to transmit two ideas. If you manage to know which two ideas that I want to transmit now, probably you're not human. So, because if you start reading the paragraphs, probably you will stop at the second sentence and say like, oh my God, this is so tedious. But if I change it a little bit, and now I present two graphics, you will know that the first idea that I want to show is just like Saturn, and the second idea is probably just talking about climate change. So you see, humans are inherently, are by nature, visual creatures. Text just doesn't work for us. And sharing ideas works in a similar way. If we try to share ideas with pictures, we can share a lot more content as if we were using just text. Not only it is crucial, using images help us transmit complex ideas, but images can also help us take decisions. Why is that not moving? Oh, okay. I think I have a technical problem. But okay, you see, if you remember during the COVID pandemic, you will see this curve. This flatten the curve stuff, what this animation tells us is that whenever we make, yes, there is the animation. So, okay, this is actually a mathematical idea. So what kind of decisions can lead us to different futures? For example, if we choose to be careful, if we choose to wash hands, then we are actually not surpassing the healthcare system capacity with the number of cases in COVID as if we just don't care and do not wear a mask, so we will surpass the number of cases and also the healthcare system capacity. So this is just a small example that complex ideas can be transmitted easily by using graphics, and they can also help people make important decisions. In this presentation, I will give you some small elements of design that you can hopefully use in your future presentations or when you just want to convey some sort of idea graphically. So at the parking point, so the visual building blocks that we will use are just basic stuff that we learn in the kindergarten, right? So we play around with shapes, positions, sizes, values, and colors to create complex things. But these are like our Legos, so we will depart from here. And the most misunderstood of these principles is perhaps, and the most abused also, it's color. So since I am Mexican, of course, I like a lot of colors. And I will start talking about each principle by using an artistic example as basis. So for color, I chose this painting. Has anybody seen this painting before? Raise your hand. Yeah? Okay, nice. So this is Un dimanche après-midi à l'île de la Grande-Jatte by Georges Seurat. Seurat was a French artist which actually studied a lot about color. We think that artists do not study, right? This is like a really bad, how can I say, préjugé. It's, well, you know. But, and Seurat actually dedicated his life to studying color. What he did in this picture, this is a really huge picture. So the picture in itself, in the gallery, actually looks, it has a huge size. It's like 2 meters long, as we can see it now. If you take a closer look at the picture, you will see that this picture is actually composed of dots, of the primary colors. So you can see blue dots, red dots, and yellow dots. But the illusion is that when you see it from far, then you will see everything merged, and then you will start seeing silhouettes. So Seurat understood this, and Seurat mastered the color theory that we know now. So if you've been in Instagram and you use a lot of filters, you probably hear about all these terms. So if we are talking about color, we need to understand its language. First of all, the hue actually refers to the general color category. For example, red. We have red, yellow, blue, green, okay? And the chroma actually just talk about how much quantity, how much saturation of color we had. So in here we can see that pink is actually just a desaturated type of red, okay? And also the value, it talks about the lightness or the darkness of a color. So if we play around with these things, we will eventually arrive to a concept called complementary colors. What Seurat understood and what he applied in his painting was the idea of how can I achieve brighter colors? So how can I achieve a redder red? So the idea of complementary colors is that we have to take a look at the color wheel, and if you want to make one color highlight, then you have to pair it with its opposite. So opposite colors in the color wheel are called complementary colors. You see the difference in here? So if you paired something red with something orange or something that is closer to a closer hue of it, then your red will not look brighter. But if you place it around with the green, for example, then your red will look redder, okay? But I know that it's difficult when you say like art is not my hobby, so how can I achieve better results? How can I pick up my colors if I don't have any background in art? Well, there's a lot of color theory out there. I invite you to look at it. It's really interesting. For example, for those of us who are used to working with scientific data, we know that there are different types of color palettes depending on the data that you want to represent. For example, the categorical data, then you can choose categorical palettes. For example, when you want to represent 3 out of 5 women like Brad Pitt, so then you will choose a categorical color palette. Whereas, for example, you can choose sequential color palettes when you want to talk about numerical values. A palette that I like a lot is called Viridis. So this color palette actually is founded on a study, and it works well with people who are colorblind. So whenever you want to be more inclusive while making your visualizations, you can use color palettes that are especially designed for colorblind people. And if you do not have any idea of where can I start choosing a color palette, I mean, I like this picture, but I don't know, how can I take out the colors of it? I invite you to use Canva. For example, in the Canva tool, you can place an image, such as the ones that I have there, and Canva will automatically extract the color palettes for you. Okay, so that's it for color, and now I'm going to give you an overview of the principles of design. So the first principle I want to talk about is balance. There are many principles in design, but I just choose these ones because I think these are the most important. So the first one is balance. Balance talks about bringing 2 or more opposing concepts together harmoniously. A picture that I choose to illustrate this is one of my favorite paintings by Frida Kahlo, of course, because I'm Mexican. I have to talk about Mexicans. Who in here knows Frida Kahlo? Ah, nice. Yeah, okay, that's good. So the story of this picture actually is to contrast 2 aspects of Frida Kahlo's life. So you see, what she puts is that in the middle, there is like a symmetric line that represents one of the Fridas. The Frida on the left is the Frida that was naive, the Frida that was in love with Diego Rivera. Do you know Diego Rivera, everybody? Yes? Who knows Diego Rivera? Okay, nice. Okay, so Diego Rivera was a Mexican painter, and he was actually Frida Kahlo's husband. But there was a point in time where Frida Kahlo was known as Diego Rivera's wife. So Frida when she married Diego, there was a huge age gap. This is one of the most toxic relationships, and if you see the whole love history is almost like a Mexican telenovela. So, so you see, there was this huge age gap, and she really looked up to him until she became an artist herself. And now she is even more famous than he is. But there was a turning point in history. So the Frida that is on the left is the Frida that changed, the Frida, the artist, the Frida that actually got invited to a Vogue presentation, and the Frida that became a huge, huge artist, and the Frida that became heartbroken because Diego Rivera cheated on her with her sister. So yeah, but you have to look the details later. So the idea of the design concept is that we can bring up two opposing views. You know the human eye, when you put two things together, you will start looking at the differences. This is just intuitive. This is just how we build. So in the two differences that we see there is the Frida that wore the traditional Mexican clothing versus the Frida that wore the more French refined clothes, if you will. So you will start looking at differences just because by the way that the two concepts are put on with each other. An example that I want to pick for this, how can you apply this to science? Well, there is this picture that I like. It's an organ under attack from the Science magazine. It talks about the kidney disease. So we see that there is a similar idea here. So you see there's something symmetrical in the middle that can invite us to look for differences between them. So whenever we have a healthy heart, this is how a heart should look like. And whenever we have a sick heart with the kidney disease, there are stuff that is going on that is not normal. So we see, for example, the podocyte, so these small cells in here. When we have an unhealthy heart, this actually starts falling down, and this is some material that will eventually lead to your kidney when you have this type of kidney disease. So you see, this is one example of how can we bring balance to scientific figures. The next concept is rhythm. Rhythm, as in music, is something that creates a space between sounds. It creates division between the elements in it to create a pattern. One artist that is known to explode this is the Japanese woman, the polka dot princess, Yayoi Kusama. Does anybody know her? Raise your hand. Oh, really? Okay. Well, so Yayoi Kusama was, she was the first woman that came out with this concept. Actually, she started just painting polka dots everywhere because, unfortunately, she suffered from hallucinations. So in her hallucinations, she said like, well, but I cannot get this polka dot out of my mind. So the polka dot actually helped her, just painting polka dots and filling entire rooms with polka dots, helped her be more at ease. You know, now that we talk about mental health, so this is one of the strategies that she used. But unfortunately, at that time, I think it was the 80s, these kind of exhibitions were a male-dominated field again. So her ideas were stolen by other people. So she suffered a lot throughout her life. But now these are her most famous works are called also the Infinity Rooms. If you have the chance to visit one of the Infinity Rooms, then I encourage you to do it. So the idea of the polka dots is that by spacing them differently, we can exploit these to create different patterns. So in here in the room, for example, we see that the more spaced polka dots with a rhythm that is more spacious between them can look a little bit behind, whereas the polka dots that are closer together actually give us the idea of texture of the tentacles, for example. An example of how can we exploit this rhythm comes from Ed Hodgkins, which is the mapping of changes in temperature every year from 1850 to 2023. It's a graphic that I like a lot because it gives us the idea through rhythm and speciation the space between each and every one of the years allows us to make a mental image of the change that happened in the 80s. So when the temperature in the world started rising. This is a really beautiful graphic that actually manages to exploit this concept of rhythm. So another concept is movement. So movement is just a way of guiding the user's eye to some predetermined path in a composition. One painting that I love, which exploits this, is The Great Wave of Kanagawa by Hokusai, the Japanese artist. In here, the idea of movement is actually, if you see it from the beginning, the first thing that certainly caught your eye was the start of the wave. Was the first thing that you see. And then, since the wave is drawn in such a way that you start descending the view, and you will notice at the end that there are some men in small boats just fighting off the wave in here. So an idea of how to exploit this concept of movement, I found it on a book. As I said, I am not a biologist by formation, so my background is not biology, so I had to teach myself a lot of this stuff. So you see, in this diagram, we can see how our DNA is organized inside our cells. You see, the DNA is what makes us different, essentially. So if you pick one cell and just unroll all the quantity of DNA that you have inside it, you can fill, I think, 1 kilometer, well, I don't know, it's a huge distance, so a couple of kilometers, just with the content of your DNA. To know how is it organized, then you can use this idea of movement. I like this image because it also contrasts two ideas. So the pictures on the left actually represent the microscopic view of each and one of the stages that we see in the other side. So you see that there are lots of different names from when you have the DNA as a double helix, so when it's unfolded, and then it started rolling in some things that are called histones. So the DNA got enrolled in this, and then you start rolling and rolling until you arrive to something called the chromosomes. So this is how the DNA is organized, and this is how we can exploit the idea of movement by going from up to the bottom to explain this concept. One final idea is contrast. A contrast is how different elements are in a design. We want to make them more easily discernible, so we want to highlight them in such a way that we can make them different from the rest. A painting that illustrates this is The Son of Man by René Magritte. So in this, the first thing that you will see when you face it is the apple. So the idea is that Magritte had this idea that every man hits something, has something hidden from it. So he puts the apple in the front just so that the viewer can focus on the apple instead of the rest. So if you close your eyes a little bit, you will see that what you will see is like a green dot that represents the apple, so the contrast, and everything that is behind, which is the man. How can we exploit this? Well, a nice visualization of this is the conservation status of the world's trees. I want to point out that every picture that I've shown here is actually a research result in itself. So I think this is a good moment to tell you that you see, only by looking at this picture, we can see from all the diversity of trees that exist in the planet Earth, how much of them are there threatened. By this contrast, you will see the color theory in here. So we used complementary colors to show that approximately 30%, so you have an idea of proportion. This graph tells us an idea of what proportion of all the trees that exist are threatened. So you see, the power of graphics is that they can convey a huge, well, all your research results, you can place them in just one graphic. Another graphic that I like for that is the better fish to fry. I don't know if this is a question that you've had once in your life, but what is the best protein to eat? In terms of what? In terms of nutrition, in terms of carbon footprint? How can I choose what to eat? Well, this graphic can tell us a lot about this. This graphic helps us by explaining this idea of contrast. This graphic tells us that actually eating fish, it's better because it can be more nutritionally beneficial, and also its relative greenhouse gas emissions are low compared to other proteins, for example, like beef, chicken, or pork. Fish are the best. So you see, the power of graphics is that we can convey all the research that we have been doing for years and years just in one picture. So now it's your turn. Now that you have all these concepts, what are you going to do with them? I hope that this presentation serves you as an inspiration to create your own graphics. Continue doing graphics, yes. And well, I just want to share this small experiment. When I was a bachelor student, I started doing scientific posters by hand. So I know that this is a little bit uncommon to do, especially in science, but my supervisor, Maribel Hernandez, she actually encouraged me to do this. So all the time that I was in her lab, which is actually a nice lab activity to do, so you see, she doesn't know how to draw. And, but she said, like, I want to do it. Who are you to tell me that I cannot do it, okay? I just want to do it. So she started just printing out pictures of the internet, and she made this first poster, which talks about the simulation of gene family histories. So what happens with the special types of genes throughout their evolutionary history. Then you see, you can talk about things that are so technical, such as the mutational dynamics of the mouse mitochondrial genome. If you see here, the authors are represented as mice, and we just put the graphics of our findings, you see? So what types of differences we see in their mitochondrial genomes. And you can say, but not everything is, you cannot convey every idea like that. Well, this last poster, we talk about spider graphs. It's a good example of that. So spider graphs, it's a mathematical structure. So in here, we represent all the characteristics that the spider graphs should represent. So you can be artistic in math too. So, okay, with that, I'd like to share my references for this. If you are interested in building better science graphics, I invite you to read this book. This was my main inspiration. And I actually like it from the first line, which said, I never knew if I was a scientist or an artist. And I really identify with that, so if you ever thought that way, so go read this book. And yes, most of the graphics that I presented here are part of Nature's top science graphics from 2022. So if you think, but why should I do pretty graphics? Why can I win from that? Well, you can be featured in Nature's top science graphics if you want. And also another tool for people, for non-programmers or for people that are starting to program. So it's the Python Graph Gallery. So in here, you can have examples of how to make nice box plots, nice scatter plots, heat maps, and you can play around with the parameters. And it's a really instructive way to learn how to do science graphics. And with this, I'd like to end. So thank you very much for your attention. can keep talking if you want, just to fill the empty space.
No? Yes. Okay. Amazing. I have a question for the people in science that have not that creative soul, but they want to try to show the science in a creative way. How do they start?
I say the best way is to collaborate. The best way is to get out of our bubble, because we as scientists sometimes just stay in our bubble as informaticians. As I've seen many examples of people that really need computer science and we're not able to explain that to them, I think in a way we also need to get closer to artists. We also need to stop looking at, I don't know, comics as stuff for your kids. I think we should increase our visual literacy, that is, read. So I think it's the most useful advice that I've been given in my life is just read. Read more. Try to look at other people's examples. What do people that are trying to communicate science are doing? So I think just by looking, we learn by doing, and we learn by example. So there are so many YouTubers that are doing such a great job in conveying science, also in Instagram. When you look at people that are trying to teach other languages, for example, now that I am learning Arabic or that I'm learning French, I saw lots of nice illustrations. So looking at how do these people do that kind of gets you inspired. I think that most of all is that we lack inspiration. So we don't know how to look, but we should take the example from others. As we have GitHub and as we have Stack Exchange when we look for questions about programming, we should also look at other people that are really exploiting art in other domains, not only stay in our scientific domain.
Thank you.
As sometimes in engineering, when using graphics, you might be considered as not serious enough. Have you ever felt that, like using graphics in science?
Oof, a lot of times. In every conference, I feel like that. And yes, it's a nice story. I don't know, how can I go back with the posters? Yes, that. So when I was, well, this is a small story. When I was a bachelor student, I actually presented one of these posters. One of the comments that I heard, I was a bachelor student, okay? So I heard the other PhD student said like, this looks like kindergarten work. How dare you present that in a scientific conference? And you know, my supervisor, she said like, how dare you say that? Do you know that this poster actually won Best Poster Award in an international conference? So, yeah, I mean, stop listening to people. I know it's bad advice, but I don't know, they should not be able to tell you what to do. If you want to do it, go. And I think the more you practice, the better you become. I mean, the first poster, the best poster I made by hand did not look like this one, like the mouse, I think, or even the spider. It didn't even look like that. But the more you practice, the more you feel confident about it, and you stop listening to people.
Anyway, thank you so much for this presentation. I'm really so happy when I see people that are like getting outside of the box and like being so creative, and that was so interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's a camera there. I'm sorry.
And what tool in Canva, because I know that you use a lot Canva, but what do you recommend to use that people that is starting also to create these dynamic presentations and everything. Canva is the easiest one, or there are other tools for beginners in the sense that they want to create content?
Well, for presentations, I'd say Canva, yes. To create content would be the best one. My advice would be to use the predefined formats that are there. You will start exploring. You can actually search by topic. For example, I want to make a scientific presentation. I want to make a teaching presentation. And the idea is that sometimes we're really limited. But even in Canva, if you look for graphics, that said, for example, do you have a graphic? I don't know. In here, for example, if you look just for wink, then you can have many options. If you look like for emojis, then you have lots of options. Even abstract concepts. The other day, I was looking for I look compare. So what kind of graphical ideas can you associate with the word compare? I think we can exploit the power of artificial intelligence that Canva has, just to come up with different ideas. So even if your concept seems so abstract, for example, me, I work with mathematics, I look at networks, I look at graphs, I look at whatever abstract thing you think, I think you will find something in Canva. Yeah.
Yes, I have a question. Thank you, Alitzel, for your great presentations. You show the poster by creating by the hand. I would like to know approximately how many hours you spend to create this poster, including like a brainstorming to have the idea. Because when you did a mistake, you need to restart over.
Okay. No. Well, actually, if I do it by myself, it's kind of cheating because, as I said, I wanted to be an artist when I was little. So I really took that seriously. I actually took art classes. So for me, doing a poster like this, it took me one afternoon. But to my supervisor, which was the one that made this one, it took a week. But it's mostly a group effort. It's actually, you can see it as a team activity, something that brings your lab together, because every person in the lab collaborated with something here. So in that way, you can say a week, you can come to the lab, you can work on your part, and it actually brings your lab members together. So I say it depends on who is in your team, and so I think it's worth investing some time and doing stuff like that.
Thank you.
It's very interesting, thank you. And I imagine that it takes trust as well for the members of your team, because you actually like putting some times in it and investment. So like it must be something, to let it go sometime, the perfectness, and give the ability to the other one to express as well and show their work. So I think it's very interesting. So do you have another advice about that, like in the artist way, your mix of scientific brain and the other part?
Career-wise, I think if you're struggling of whether you should let go of something that you really like, I think you should put more effort in seeing how do these two come together. For example, if you like photography, I don't know, and you want to pursue a scientific career, why do not, take a course in medical imagery? There are some stuff that you can profit from. For example, the contest of science vulgarization, the science by picture of the ACFAS, I think. I think there are so many efforts of bringing science and art together now that, I don't know, if you like to communicate ideas, participate in the 3-minute thesis, for example. participate in local efforts of the universities. Like in here we have the popularization contest. So if you like writing, why not give it a try? I think we can always combine the two passions. And I think I love a lot about art. It's like when I was little, I also saw a lot Bob Ross. I don't know if you know him, like the painter, you know? Like what is different from art and science is that in art, we have happy mistakes. Why can't we learn to make happy mistakes in science too? I mean, it's not like, okay, I failed this time, but okay, I learned from it, and maybe I turn it into a different results. You see, like failed results are also results. So we should stop being pessimistic about it. And yeah, you can always find a way for your passions to come together. That would be my answer.
Thank you. I like that how you tell stories about it. So thank you.
Thank you. Great presentation. Congratulations on learning Arabic. Good luck with Arabic and French together. They don't mix. I just want to have a tip because, like, for me, me and Rita, we were doing recently a poster in a competition, and I really wanted to know how to draw, but I don't know how to draw. But with the theme of this event and with people talking about AI, generative AI, like, helped me a lot, create a lot of semi-scientific stuff for my my poster, and it can be a way to start till you get like time to learn doing real art. But using AI as a starting point can help.
Yes, of course, I encourage you to use Canva. Of course, if not, I can collaborate with you. Of course, I'm happy to do that. I am sort of like an HDAD person, so I need to find hobbies and small side projects to do. I'd be happy to collaborate with you if you want. But if you want to use tools, then I say that just print images and just start drawing, you know, the old way. If you see, just using, you see with a piece of paper, you grab a pencil and just start coloring it, and then you put it sideways, and then you start just picking up images from the internet. That's the easiest way to start, just picking stuff from the internet. Maybe you want to change it a little bit. So, for example, for this type of mice, so the pink mouse actually represents my supervisor. So what I what I did was to pick up an image in the internet and just added the details, you know, like the purse and the scarf, like the way she dresses, like so you can make small tweaks, you know, even if you want to do it more professionally, like pick up a tablet. If you already have a tablet, then just pick some image from the internet and start just making the outline. That actually helps. You can, there's so many artistic ways to do this. Like you can make just collage, you know, like you can do it, I don't know, search for some artistic thing that you like Picasso, make your own Guernica, just make triangles and paste them together. I think there's many ways to start with that. I saw in one of the courses that I took about science popularization through comics, there was a guy that didn't know how to draw, and he wanted to make a comic. So what he did was he took the Lego figures of his children and he started placing them like in poses, you know, and in that way he ended up with a comic that was super cool, but the guy didn't know how to draw. So there's always ways to overcome this. So if you have an idea, so just talk to people about it. And I think we're really shy because we don't want people to steal our ideas, but talking about your ideas can actually help them make them better. So you can have ideas from people from different backgrounds, and then you can start putting your artistic touch to it. Yeah, so every mouse in there, in the upper one, represents to one of the students. So yeah, I don't remember. Ah, it's the one that is on the top. You know, the green one with the glasses, the small cheese. That's me. Yeah.